Hello everybody! Welcome to Fishing 101. So here we're going to go over some of the basics and some more advanced techniques for fishing. I'll be one of your hosts for tonight, Mienna Pelletier.
And I'm Teodote.
And Luke, just Luke.
Alright, so let's get into it. So, fishing. Fishing is a little bit of an odd duck for crafting and gathering classes. Like, some people who are otherwise very engaged just do not pick it up. Or some people get it to max level and then just never touch it. Which I think is a shame, because fishing is awesome, and I'm going to tell you why. So, first off, fishing is fun. Like, it has a completely different set of mechanics that no other, like, class in the game has, and they can be really intricate and really fun to optimize. There are a lot of challenges in the game that you get to overcome. Additionally, fishing is one of the things in the game that we actually know the least about. There's a lot of challenge in trying to discover, like, people and trying to discover, like, fish and how you actually, like, catch them. For example, Bob Goblin Bass was first discovered 45 days after release. And, and, like, that's longer than some ultimates, right? Like, I think longer than all ultimates.
Yes, the only time a world first for anything in the game took longer than a fish discovery was the world first Centonia kill.
So, if you're up for challenge, maybe try fishing. But if you're not interested in challenge, maybe you're not interested in mastery, there's always exploration. Like, fishing takes you to places you wouldn't necessarily normally explore, and a lot of these are awesome. So this is, like, just the beautiful view of Prism Lake, which is where you can catch the Warden of the Seven Hues. This is a fishing hole called Father Collard's Failings in Ilmeg that has all, like, I never knew this cave existed until I was making this presentation. But there are fish in there, and you can catch them. And the exploratory ice hole in Kurthis isn't, like, quite as pretty as these other locations, but at least you feel like you're part of something. But let's say you're not interested in all that intrinsic motivation. You want, like, to show off. Well, there's a lot of cool stuff you can get with fishing. There's titles. My favorite is Of Dragon's Deep, which you get from completing the Feast of Famine quest. There's always the classic of World-Class Troller, and a whole ton more. There's minions. So here's just a selection of some of my favorites. These are not all the minions you can get from fishing by far, but there's the Tiny Tatsunoko, which you get spearfishing, the Castaway Chocobo Chick, which you can rescue, Magic Bucket, very good, has a very good fish print, Major General you get from ocean fishing, and the much coveted Mora, which is so named because I don't have one yet. And that's not fair. On a more practical note, fishing is by far the fastest way to get white gatherer scripts. It's not half bad at purple either, and, like, any shared ether sands between all three gathering classes are really fast to get on Fisher. But also, if you just want cold hard gill, you can just sell a lot of the fish. Like, a lot of them sell surprisingly well, especially leaf fish, and aquarium fish. So aquarium fish sell well because they're cool looking, but you could also keep them because they're cool looking. This is the aforementioned Warden of the Seven Hues. It's gorgeous. The crowd favorite, the basking shark, aka the pog shark. There is my personal favorite, the wimple carp, and its cooler older brother, the archbishop. And of course, everyone's favorite, the cupfish. By the way, all of these screenshots are taken at the Eorzean Aquarium. You should come visit. So, let's talk basics. So the first thing that you need is a rod. You get your first rod from the So You Want to Be a Fisher quest in the Fisherman's Guild. If you don't know where that is, it has an aetheryte, and it's right there. You can't miss it. Once you have a rod, the next thing you need to put bait on it. There are a lot of baits in this game, especially in A Realm Reborn. Most fish usually at least like prefer a specific bait over another. Big fish basically require one, but there is a sort of secret trick where the versatile lure will work on almost every fish in the game, except for legendary fish, which are the last 6 added in each expansion. Is it always 6?
Yep.
All right. So you might want to use a specific bait because it'll make things easier for you, but if you want to just go around with a versatile lure and a rod and go crazy, you can catch a whole lot of fish there. The other thing is that sometimes fish use other fish as bait. And this is a skill you get at level 25. It lets you cast large-sized fish sort of back into the pool to try to let other fish eat them. And this gets you yet more fish. The only thing is that they have to be a large-sized fish, which is what high quality used to be. And that's a relatively low chance naturally. I think it caps out at about 20%. So, but you can increase that with patience, which is a skill you actually have already by the time you get Mooch at this point. That's not used to be the case. But you get it at level 15. If you use it, it increases your chance of landing a large-sized fish, but there's this hook penalty, which essentially just means you have to use the right hook set to catch the fish. So, what is the right hook set? For fish that have 1 exclamation point when they bite, that's going to be precision hook set all the time. For fish that have 2 exclamation points over your head when they bite, that's going to be powerful hook set. And for fish that have 3 exclamation points over your head when they bite, depends. They can be powerful or they can be precision. It kind of depends on how big the fish is usually. You're either going to have to make some educated guesses based on what fish they look like, if those are also in the pond, or you can just look it up. But yeah, it's very easy to fall in the trap of assuming that 3 exclamation points is going to be powerful hook set. That is not necessarily the case. There are also other kinds of fishing in the game, which, Tioto, would you like to tell us about them?
Oh, ocean fishing is a relatively new addition. It came out in patch 5.2, and it is an instance which operates on a set schedule, and you are allowed to queue for it once every 2 real-world hours. So when it opens, you will see this icon on the map near the dock near the Arcanist Guild in Limsa, and Drisk Thora, the NPC you queue from, will get this exclamation mark over her head, and you talk to her, you say you want to get on a boat, and you will get into a queue. And this queue is open for 15 minutes, and when you get on it, it opens up, and you get on the boat. And the biggest appeal of ocean fishing for many people is leveling, so you get in the boat, you catch fish, and you level extremely fast. You can get multiple levels per boat, and at an extremely low level you can get up to 10, maybe more if you get lucky. And if you want to, you could level from 1 to 90 purely with the rod that you get from unlocking fishing at level 1. There's no gear requirement whatsoever, and gear can help you because it can let you use skills more often that will help you level faster, but if you don't want to, you can just use the level 1 rod, level from 1 to 90 with nothing. But something else appealing for many people about ocean fishing specifically is that it is considered to have less RNG than fishing. But I would argue that it's not necessarily less RNG, but it is more that ocean fishing is a much different pace than fishing normally. Because you queue in and you're in the instance for 24 minutes approximately, and you have 21 minutes to fish. So the bites in ocean fishing that you encounter can often be extremely fast, 2-3 second bites, as opposed to in the overworld, some can last about a minute long. But instead, how ocean fishing works largely is it is a much different type of RNG, where you don't encounter it all at once, and even when you do, you don't necessarily see it right away. So if you're inexperienced with fishing, you can enter and have a fantastic time not even knowing what you're encountering because it's over relatively quickly. But something else appealing for many fishers who are more experienced is you can also set deterministic goals with ocean fishing, and the first one for many people is scoring, where when you're on the boat, the fish have individual values, and at the end you receive this screen that tells you what all of those fish added up to, and then you get a total score based on other activities you did on the boat. And these give things like titles. The World Class Troller title is for getting 3 million total points over all of your ocean fishing voyages, for example. And this can be extremely complex, but at its base level, you will always get a score at the end of the boat based on what you caught. And the other appealing thing for people is the group achievements, where since ocean fishing is an instance piece of content, you group up with 7 other fishers, and you then, in your individual party of 8 people, you group up to catch a set amount of specific types of fish, and you will you have to catch them. You have to catch specific types of fish together as a group, and if you meet the yield requirement for a specific achievement for that type of fish, you will then get a title. So for instance, there's an achievement for catching more than 100 sharks as your party of 8 people. You cannot do that alone, so you group up with 7 people, you work together, and you all now have a shark hunter title. But something that you should consider if you're inexperienced with ocean fishing is it is extremely friendly to people who are very inexperienced. You simply just need these 3 baits, and you can do everything in ocean fishing, technically, as long as you have these 3 baits. But if you find that you enjoy it, there is a huge amount of complexity that I do not have time to talk to you about today. For instance, I have written many ocean fishing guides, and this is one step. This ocean fishing, you have 3 stops that you go to. This is the strategy for one of the 3 stops on one of the 12 routes. So if you enjoy it, there is very much more for you to get into.
Alright, so now we'll talk about spearfishing. As a fisher, you need to be level 61 and do the quest A New Fishing Experience, which you can pick up in the Ruby Sea. And I believe it also requires the Stormblood MSQ quest in Sorbonne We Trust to be completed as well. So sorry, free trialers, you can't spearfish. So at level 61, you unlock 3 skills: Fathom, Shark Eye, and Gig. Fathom allows you to see teeming waters, which is basically a fishing node where you can spearfish. Shark Eyes will help you find the actual teeming waters. It'll show you the general direction. It's like your lay of the land or your arbor call. And Gig is what you press to actually grab the fish. So the way that spearfishing works is that there are different sizes and different speeds. An example is the Authordian lumpsucker in the Ruby Sea. In this specific hole, there's 2 medium fish, and the difference is the Authordian lumpsucker moves slightly slower than the right-eye flounder. Now, the good thing about spearfishing is that sometimes you can catch fish that can be used for ethereal reduction, such as our friend the Authordian lumpsucker. I'm sorry, I just really love saying that. It is currently the fish that gives the N-tide ether sand, and this is just a quick example of what spearfishing looks like. The 3 strange sharp things at the bottom is your gig, and when you press gig, it just zooms up like a reverse claw machine, and if it hits a fish, you've caught a fish. Note the orange wariness bar. When it fills up, the teeming waters disappear and you gotta go find a new one because fish get scared, and when they get scared, they disappear. And yeah, that's basically spearfishing in a nutshell.
Alright. So yeah, there's a lot of different flavors of fishing that you could do in the game. And this will get you, like, between ocean fishing and spearfishing and, like, basic fishing that we've talked about so far, that'll get you, like, 95% of the fish in the game. But that's maybe an overstatement. But if you crave something more complex, maybe something bigger, there are a lot of fish that have special requirements that you can catch. One of these is time of day. For example, the full moon sardine. You can kind of read here. They feed only at night. It's catchable in many holes around Lenosha from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And it makes, that makes a lot of sense. There's also the rain collar, which some fish have to do with weather, like what the weather is in the area. The rain collar, talks about can be seen sticking its head out of the water whenever it rains, and it shows up in Gridania when it's raining. And this makes sense. But some fish don't. Like, it's intuitive for the handful that I've selected here, but it's usually not. In addition to it being like the weather that's current, sometimes it relies on the weather transition. So let's, for example, the Old Man in the Sea here requires that it go from being from rain, I think it's rain or showers, to clear skies. And there's nothing in this that'll tell you that. You just kind of have to figure it out or look it up, and that's fishing. Additionally, there is a mechanic called Fisher's Intuition. Essentially what that means is that you need to catch a certain number of other types of fish, and then this fish, you'll get a buff on you that's called Fisher's Intuition that will allow you to possibly catch this fish. So one example here is Cornelia, which, it does say a boxing pleco who will only leave her place among the rocks when all other pleco have been sent down for the count. So again, this particular example actually does explain the way that it works. Many of them don't. The other thing, another sort of advanced concept, is that fish have timing windows that they bite on. So, for example, there are some fishing spots in the churning mists that actually contain like the widest variety of fish bites in the game. In Tharloom Kosh, there are storm chasers that bite at like 3 seconds. It's basically as soon as you cast your rod into the, well, it's not really ocean, is it? Into the sky? Churning mist is weird. But they basically bite immediately. Where the Soul of the Martyr, which is a big fish in the landlord colony, can take up to a minute to bite. So if you know when a fish bites, you can reel in early, when you know your fish would have bit by now, or you can ignore a bite if you know it's way too early for the fish you want. And the big question that I'm guessing you're asking here is, how on earth do you know all these things? And the thing is that there are a lot of really good resources that we have, as fishers that people have made, and they're wonderful. So the first one I want to talk about is Carbuncle Plushie. I'm just gonna mouse over here. Carbuncle Plushie is an excellent website for knowing when fish are going to spawn. So, for example, you can see here, Namataro, the conditions are sort of none. Technically it's all day, but it is a Fisher's Intuition fish, so it requires that you catch a fish before you catch it, and the giant Takitaro requires either thunder or thunderstorms, and doesn't matter what time it is. So this is a really good way of just knowing what the requirements are. And you can see here, Shonisaurus is clear skies or fair skies into blizzard. So it has to be blizzarding when you catch the fish, but it needed to be one of these two before it. One of the other wonderful things about this is that it shows you both what baits you need to catch the fish and what bite to expect the fish to have. So, For example, Shonisaurus here has a long mooch chain. First you use a hover worm, then you hope for a two exclamation point bite, which you will use powerful hook set on. Then you get a cloud cutter, which you will then mooch, hope for a 3 exclamation point bite, which you will use powerful hook set on. Then you will catch a mahar, which you will then mooch to get a 3 exclamation point bite, which you will use powerful hook set on, and hopefully that would be your Shonisaurus. And this is complicated, but at least it's all laid out here. And that's one of the longest mooch chains. I don't think there are any that go longer than 3.
We have only 2, and until Shadowbringers there was only 1 with a frilled shark, and in Shadowbringers we got our second one.
Is that the Raider Serpent of Bronca?
Yep.
All right.
It's one of the legendaries from Shadowbringers.
And here you can also see that, like the mirror scale, for example, this is one of those examples of the precision hook set big fish. So you need to get a midge basket to mooch into a copperfish, but then once you mooch the copperfish, you're hoping for a 3 exclamation point bite that you would need to use precision hook set on. So like I said, it's really easy to mix up powerful hook set and the 3 exclamation point bite, heavy tug as it says here. But they're not equivalent. Also, one thing to keep in mind is that though it does, like for instance, the Nepta Dragon has powerful hook set here, right? But you don't have to use patience or the hook sets in specific to catch a fish. You'd probably want to be using patience for Shonisaurus here, where you have this long mooch chain where you need to get large fish so that you can mooch them repeatedly. So these hook sets are really useful. But for a straight catch fish that's just bait to catch, you do not need to use patience. Patience does not help you. It's just, if you would use a powerful hook set. Otherwise, just use hook. Hook is how you catch fish. And this website is excellent. You can pin the fish that you're interested in. Otherwise, you'll see the ones that are up that are highlighted, and otherwise they can be sorted by, you can sort them by uptime, you can sort them by what's going to come up next. You can also filter by expansion, filter by patch, and my opinion, my most favorite feature of it, you can check off fish. So you can just say, oh, I caught this, it's fine. And then your list gets smaller and smaller, and the peace in your heart just increases. So, in sum, it's really good for knowing when fish are happening. It has a quick reference for basically everything you need to know about the fish. Small caveat is that the information is updated by hand, so that's good because it means that usually things are verified, but it does mean that things can be out of date. So you can always double check with some more detailed references. Speaking of more detailed references, Final Fantasy XIV Teamcraft has basically all the information you could possibly want to know about specific fishing holes. So, let's say, for example, that you wanted to find a holier than Mogpom for your new best friend, Alphino's mom. So, you go here, you want to search for an item, which is a holier than Mogpom. No, don't tell me there's an issue with XIV API search. Oh, I love doing things live. All right. Okay, hold on. I can fix this. Because, it's been doing that for an hour. That's what I get for practicing earlier than that. All right. Okay. This is fine. I don't know if I knew this, I could navigate directly to it. Okay, so you can't find that one. Can you get it? Can you get to it by anything? Can we go to the log? Let's go to the log tracker. It's gonna be fine. Hold on. We'll go to the log tracker. And okay. It's in the Sea of Clouds. No, it's not. Sorry. I constantly mix up the Sea of Clouds and the Turning Mist because they're both in weird places. Okay. So. Okay. This is fine. Alright. So Teamcraft is down. But. And I refreshed this page. It was open and now it's not. Okay. This is unideal. But, I'll talk about it. So, the basic idea is that you can, and I'll hold on. I can fix things. Oh, I love practicing. It's good. So, I'll show you some screenshots of it. So, one of the things that you can see at Teamcraft is a bite timings list, which is excellent. So you can see all of the fish that bite in an area and what time they bite at, which, is useful for the things that I was talking about before with the bite timings. In addition, it'll tell you how common fish are necessarily to bite. So on a certain bait, you'll see that there is a certain percentage of them biting, and there's a ton more information than that. I'm sorry that I can't do a live demo. It's very funny that this happened literally right now. But let's go back to this. So it's really good for baits and bite timings. Data collection can be a little bit biased, especially for older holes, because a lot of the time fishers are purposefully targeting a specific fish. So you'll see some like weird stuff where it's like, oh, like 20% of the time people fished for this thing, they got the big fish, when really it's 5% of the time they fished for it, they got the big fish, and like 60% of the time they just let the fish go because it wasn't what they wanted. So you kind of need to keep that in mind. Another excellent resource is Fruity Snack's YouTube channel. So Fruity Snacks is a wonderful person with a wonderful YouTube channel. They are like, these videos they're helpful, they're informative, they're entertaining, and there's basically individual videos for most of the challenging big fish, and even some of the tricky common ones. If you see like legacy next to one of these fish, next to one of these videos, it probably means that they they don't necessarily have new skills in them, but they still work. And some even have like updates in the description. Pause this. But they all have very detailed text guides, and even include some of them even include like what to do for free trial folks. So these videos are excellent, and they're wonderful. And a fun fact about Carbuncle Plushie is that they actually link to both of these resources. So this would link to the fishing spot, which isn't going to load. That's very sad. And this would link to the Fruity Snacks video. Isn't that fun? And if you're excited about all of this fishing, then you might also want to do ocean fishing, which our very own Tieto has written absolutely amazing guides at guides.teamcraft.com. And so if you go here, all you have to do is go to Gathering, and then you can click on any of these, if you're looking for a specific achievement or just scoring in general. You can click on these, and Tieto, I don't know if you want to describe more of what we're looking at.
I would describe them as extremely detailed. Ocean fishing for scoring in particular can be a bit difficult to follow a guide for, despite this being one. So, for instance, what we showed earlier, and if you look at any of the routes on any of the stops, there is a lot of detail because there's so many different possibilities, because I can't tell you what you're going to catch, but I can attempt to tell you what you want to look for, or maybe a bit on how to react. So, despite being so detailed, for the scoring one, it is to attempt to teach you how to score high consistently. So it has an attempt to show nearly every realistic possibility you can encounter, and then to teach you how you can apply these strategies to score 16, 20k, which is what many people are trying to do, with much greater consistency, because many guides put an emphasis on simply getting lucky, but actually, if you understand the content, you can achieve high scores pretty consistently, but it is very detailed. The ones for the bonus achievements are much simpler because you do have a set objective that you just have to follow.
Yeah, and I fully credit you for me getting the achievements for any of the special boats, because I would not have known what to do without your guides. So, yeah, guides for scoring or individual achievements. They're very thorough and extensively tested. So that's things overall. Let's just get into a couple little tips for big fish. First off, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's really easy to get overwhelmed, especially if you just open up Carbuncle Plushie for the first time and see, hundreds of fish there. So I recommend just breaking it down. Break it down by expansion. You could break it down by patch. You can break it down by rarity. Just do something, or, just take breaks. That's also valid. There are 255, I think, big fish in the game right now. So yeah, just take it easy. They will be there. The game is not shutting down anytime soon.
Something that I think is very important to remember, especially if you're starting either fishing in general or big fishing, is that if you're starting from next to nothing or nothing, that it is content that has existed since the Realm Reborn. So you're not just doing current content, you're doing almost 10 years worth of content. So attempting to do it extremely quickly can potentially burn you out if you're not somebody inclined to do that. So it is very good to try to pace yourself so that you don't get too overwhelmed.
Yeah. Another little tip is use timer macros. So what you can do is you can replace like your cast action with something like this, where it tells you how many seconds have passed since you cast your line, and you can compare this sort of, not directly to the Teamcraft timings, but with a couple seconds buffer to account for your actual rod casting animation. You can compare it to those to sort of know what fish you have on the line. One really good example for this is Salad, who bites really, really early. So like you can see it bites here around 12 seconds. Almost exactly 12 seconds, it seems like almost all the time, on bait bugs, which is the only bait that it bites on. And so if you get to, let's say, 15 seconds to get the buffer right, you can just reel your you can just reel your rod back in. You definitely do not have the fish on the line that you want. Just reel it back in and cast it again. Additionally, there's this move called Surface Slap. You get it at level 71, so it's pretty late in your fishing journey, if you're catching them while you're leveling. But if you level up first, you have it. And essentially what it does is it allows you to remove a fish from the pool of potential fish until you catch your next fish. So, essentially what this can do is, this can then raise the chances of you catching the fish that you want. There are several factors that you'll want to keep in mind when determining which fish you want to surface slap. One of them is like just how common the bite is, right? So here we're trying to catch sea butterfly, and you think, oh well, look, 41% of the time that you use great crane fly here. And if this were actual Teamcraft, you could mouse over it. It would tell you what these things are. You don't have to like memorize them like a crazy person, me. But you say, oh well, 41% of the time I would catch this. So if I catch one and then slap it, you know, hopefully that'll raise my chances the most to get the fish I want. But you also might want to take into account other factors. For example, timing. So let's say you're trying to catch the Mora tecta here, which you know, bites pretty late. Median timing is 30 seconds. You might look at this and say, well, the stormfish is the most common, 37.2%. So I should slap that. But you might also look at the Caliban here, which right here is the 24.6, and think, man, but if I could remove that, guarantee I'm not catching a Caliban, then I would know when my timer passes 25 seconds, I know that I have a Mora tecta on the line. And again, 25, maybe closer to 26, because of the Teamcraft thing. But you know that you have a Mora tecta on the line, and that might be what you would prefer. Sorry for traumatizing everyone who's tried to catch lancet fish. So yeah, it kind of comes down to personal preference in that way. What would annoy you more? Getting this really frequent bite, or watching the thing go out and your excitement raises in your heart, only to find out that it's in a Caliban. You might also want to consider the same bite strength. So for here, if you're trying to catch the magic bucket, you might look at this, again, 23.7. Sema Patrician is a decent candidate to slap. But you also notice that the Mountain Kraken here, which has a 19.2% chance to bite, again, pretty high, has a big tug, which is the 3 exclamation points. And let's say that you just want to relax, maybe watch something, and not stress out too much. You might think that getting a big bite like this, you know, would get you excited. You want that to be the thing you're looking for. If you slap the Mountain Kraken, you can guarantee that you're not getting this one. And Captain Nemo over here is timed. You can just show up when he's not around, and then you can eliminate the possibility of getting that. And then you know that if you get an actual 3 exclamation point bite, it is the magic bucket that you're looking for. So it, again, depends on, you know, sort of efficiency versus your own sanity. And those are things you might consider while surface slapping. But if you're comfortable with the fish that you're slapping, you got a timer macro, you're being super efficient, you've watched all the videos, and you still can't catch the fish, there is one secret technique that we fishers have that is frequently very helpful, and that's complaining. So it is mysterious how many times that just mentioning that you have not seen a fish, that you will never see a fish, kind of just seems to make the fish jump into your pocket. It's a good strategy, and you know, just get together with your fellow fishers and really just share your feelings and talk things out, and maybe the desire sensor will take pity on you. And that about wraps up Fishing 101. So first, obviously, I want to say thank you to my wonderful co-hosts and co-authors, Tioto and Luke. I also would like to thank Niala Rossi and Zenyatta Mandata for helping put together the presentation. I definitely want to shout out the Fisherman's Horizons Discord, otherwise known as the Fishcord, for being the absolute best fishing resource to ask your questions or lament any fishing related problems. And of course, check out the aquarium. It's on Crystal, Marlborough, Lavender Beds, Ward 16, Plot 59. You can see all of the aquarium fish in the entire game, plus some specialty exhibits that are super cool. It's also what brought all of us together. We also have a website. We have a couple minutes left if we want to do a Q&A, if anyone has any questions they want to ask about fishing. What is the worst fish visually? I feel like a lot of people were really upset at lancet fish when it became an aquarium fish, because it's so hard to catch. And when you put it in the aquarium, it looks just really dumb.
I think, in a very similar vein, when stone scale from ocean fishing came out and it was an aquarium fish, somebody asked me to send them a screenshot of stone scale in the aquarium, and I sent it to them, and they were like, "What are your graphic settings? Why does it look that way?" And I've seen people talk about it as if it's a PS1 shark.
Yeah, definitely stone scale for me because I have trypophobia.
Oh,
Scales,
no.
just no. It was very scary looking at it first time.
Yeah, we did help assemble the aquarium. I don't know about any anecdotes. It was mostly just Fruity Snacks going, "Hey man, you know, technically you could make an aquarium if you got enough people in an FC and they all made rooms." And we went, "Okay," and then did that. And now Fruity Snacks owns an aquarium. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of rushing to complete a lot of the story. And it's great. It came together very quickly. You know, when a lot of people who are really passionate about something come together, and sort of overnight, you're like, oh, not literally overnight. It took a couple weeks, but it was amazing how fast it came from just a twinkle in Fruity Snack's eye to being a physical aquarium that existed.
To the question of how much fishing do you need to do to be a real fisher, it's if you have fishing unlocked and you're fishing, you're a real fisher. You're fishing, so there you go. Fishing is so much unlike the other crafters and gatherers in that there's so much content behind it. So there are people who can spend the entirety of their days fishing in this game and not engage with so much of it as content. So you don't have to do everything to be a real fisher. If you're fishing and you like it, you're a fisher.
My favorite aquarium fish is the Wimple carp here, because I just think he's got a real cute little face. Oh no, that's not the slide.
And for what is the hardest fish to catch, it is whatever fish you have last to catch for whatever your goal is. So say your goal is one of the big fishing achievements, the one that's the hardest to catch is the one that you catch last for the achievement.
Yeah. Personally, the one that took me the longest was salad. It took a long time. Like, I basically caught all but like 3 fish in the game in a month and a half. And then it took me the next 3 months to catch those last 3 fish, which was Salad, Cinder Surprise, and Ruby Dragon.
What feature? So the feature that I want Square Enix to add is actually one which they've removed, which is the old skill. Well, we still have a skill named it, but I was an enjoyer of the old fish eyes, if anybody remembers that, and I think its implementation was very poor, but I think it can be implemented in a much better way. And since we have such a large GP pool now, I think the old fish eyes is very fair to have now. But it needs to be a bit more transparent, either like how when you get intuition, you get a buff, you get the message that states that you have it, since you could have multiple fish eyes in one hole. It's saying what fish eyes you get when you use it, for example.
And the moment
But I think there's no chance of that.
The moment that I decided I wanted to finish the fishing log was after Endwalker came out. I was like, hey, let me just finish the fishing log for Endwalker. Like, there weren't any big fish, though that didn't mean there weren't any rare fish. But like I just went, you know, step by step, got all the ones for Endwalker, and I'm like, that was great. That felt great. Let's do it. And just went back expansion by expansion and caught all of them. I thought it couldn't get me until I just tried a friend walker because it was a nice blank slate. Easy. But I think that's all the time we have. So thanks so much for joining us. And be sure to check out our next fish panel, which will be Tales from the Pond. It is, it's the last panel in the thing. It's at 3:30 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. So thanks for joining us, and have a great LunarCon.